Welcome to The Deep Dive, the show where we sort of slice through a stack of sources to get you the essential knowledge, so you can be truly well-informed without feeling completely drowned in information.
Yeah, cool.
Today, we're diving into India's strategic crossroads. It's fascinating stuff, really. We're exploring the critical issues shaping domestic policy, the economy, and its international relations.
Which are getting pretty complex.
Absolutely. So our mission, like always, is to unpack this comprehensive daily analysis we have from August 13th, 2025. It's not just about what's happening, right? It's about the why, and crucially, why it really matters to you.
And that really hits the nail on that. What stands out today, I think, is just the sheer breadth of it all and how connected everything is. We're going from, judicial accountability, electoral integrity, all the way to India's geopolitical balancing acts.
Big stuff.
Huge. Plus, tech ambitions, economic shocks, even environmental governance, and some interesting cultural bits. They might seem separate, but they're actually deeply interwoven. Local stuff has global ripples, and vice versa.
Okay.
So by the end of this deep dive, you'll have, hopefully, a much clearer picture, maybe a few aha moments about what it all means.
All right, let's jump straight in then. We start with something pretty rare, constitutionally speaking. A sitting High Court judge, Justice Yashwant Verma, is under investigation. And the details are, well, dramatic. Allegedly burned currency notes found at his home.
Wow. Yeah, that's not something you hear every day.
It's definitely not. Speaker Om Birla has already formed a 3-member committee to probe this. So this isn't just a minor thing. It signals something pretty profound for the judiciary.
It absolutely does. This situation really puts the spotlight on the constitutional framework for removing high court judges. We're talking Articles 217 and 218.
Okay.
And Article 218 specifically links it directly to the process for a Supreme Court judge, which is detailed in Article 124, especially Clause 5. The key phrase here, and it's really important, is proved misbehavior or incapacity. And the emphasis has to be on proved.
Ah, okay, so not just an allegation.
Exactly. It's not enough for there to be noise or suspicion. It needs to be rigorously established. There's a high burden of proof involved.
So there's a strict legal process, and this whole mechanism, it's laid out in a specific law, isn't it?
That's right. The Judges Inquiry Act of 1968, that's the operational blueprint. It lays out the steps, ensures due process, guarantees the judge a fair chance to defend themselves. It makes the constitutional words actually work in practice.
Got it. Vital for fairness. So let's walk through this process. It sounds like it's designed to be tough for a reason. How does it even start?
Well, the first step is the initiation. You need significant support from Parliament. At least 100 members from the Lok Sabha, that's the lower house, or 50 from the Rajya Sabha, the upper house.
A high bar right from the start.
Yes. It's meant to weed out frivolous motions, things just politically motivated.
Okay, so you get the signatures, then what?
Then it goes to the admission stage. The motion is presented to either the Speaker of the Lok Sabha or the Chairman of the Rajya Sabha. And here's a key point. They have discretion. They can admit it or they can refuse it.
So they act as a gatekeeper.
Precisely. They look at whether it has enough prima facie merit. If not, they can just stop it right there.
And if they do admit it, that's when the inquiry committee comes in, which is where we are now with Justice Verma.
Exactly right. Once admitted, the presiding officer sets up this 3-member committee. And the composition is really specific to ensure impartiality.
Who's on it?
It has to be a sitting or retired Supreme Court judge, a Chief Justice of a High Court, and a distinguished jurist, someone known for their legal expertise and integrity. That mix is crucial for credibility.
Okay, makes sense. So this committee then does the investigation. What does that look like? Are there safeguards for the judge?
Absolutely. The committee digs deep into all the allegations. And crucially, natural justice applies. The judge gets a full opportunity to present their defense, cross-examine witnesses, bring evidence. It's thorough. Then they produce a detailed report with their findings.
And if that report finds the judge guilty, it goes back to Parliament for a vote, needing a special majority. This is the really difficult part, I gather.
It's incredibly difficult, the highest hurdle. If the committee finds proved misbehavior or incapacity, the motion goes to both houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, separately.
Okay.
And in each house, it needs that special majority. That means 2 things have to happen. First, a majority of the total membership of the House, and second, a majority of not less than 2/3 of the members present and voting.
Wow. So absolute majority of the whole House and a supermajority of those actually voting.
Exactly. That dual requirement makes it exceptionally rare. It's deliberately designed so a simple political majority can't just oust a judge they don't like.
Right. So even a government with a big majority might fail if enough MPs are absent or abstain. And if somehow both houses pass it, what's the final step?
The final step is the presidential order. After both houses pass the motion with that special majority, an address is presented to the President of India. The President then issues the order for the judge's removal.
That is quite a process. Exhaustive. So has anyone, any High Court or Supreme Court judge, actually been removed this way in India's history?
And that's the fascinating part. Despite this detailed process being there for decades, no judge has ever been removed through it. None.
Really? Never?
We've seen attempts. Cases got partway through, like Justice V. Ramaswamy back in 1993. The inquiry committee did find him guilty.
Okay.
But the motion failed in the Lok Sabha. The ruling party abstained, so it didn't get the two-thirds majority.
Ah.
Then there was Justice Sumitra Sen, Calcutta High Court, 2011. The Rajya Sabha passed the motion, but he resigned before the Lok Sabha even voted.
So it never completed the full parliamentary process.
Exactly. These cases just show how high that constitutional bar really is.
So this incredibly high threshold, it's intentional. What's the fundamental principle behind making it so difficult?
It really boils down to protecting judicial independence. That's a cornerstone of democracy, right?
Mm-hmm.
This high bar is there to make sure judges can do their jobs without fear or favor, free from political pressure, from the government, from parliament. If they could be removed easily, well, their impartiality could be compromised. It shields their autonomy, allows them to make tough calls, even unpopular ones, based on the law.
That makes total sense. Essential for impartiality, but independence can't mean zero accountability, surely.
Precisely. That's the balance. Independence, yes, but it has to exist alongside accountability. This impeachment process, difficult as it is, acts as that crucial constitutional safety valve.
A last resort.
Exactly. For the really serious cases of proved misbehavior or incapacity, it's a delicate balance. Give judges security to uphold the rule of law, but have a formal way to ensure accountability when absolutely needed. What it shows you, really, is that tension in any democracy between protecting judges from politics and ensuring they answer for serious wrongdoing. And protecting judicial integrity this way, ultimately, it protects your rights. It ensures fair justice as possible.
A crucial safeguard for everyone. Okay, moving from justice to another pillar of governance. Electoral integrity. The Supreme Court's been looking at Aadhaar and voter rolls, specifically in Bihar. This seems to touch on some really big debates about citizenship and trust.
Yeah, this case centers on Bihar's special intensive revision of electoral rolls, basically updating the voter lists. And some petitions were filed questioning how it was being done.
What were the main worries? I saw senior advocate Kapil Sibal argued there was arbitrary rejection of documents, Aadhaar, ration cards, even voter ID cards. He warned about mass exclusion of eligible citizens.
That was the core legal argument, yes, potential disenfranchisement on a large scale. But he also highlighted something broader, a trust deficit between the Election Commission of India, the ECI, and political parties, undermining faith in the process itself.
How did the ECI respond?
Well, the ECI said, look, it's a massive exercise. Some minor errors might happen, but they'd fix them before final publication. But then came a really significant admission from the ECI itself.
Oh.
They explicitly conceded that Aadhaar doesn't actually help screen voter eligibility under Article 326 of the Constitution. And Article 326 is what gives citizens the right to vote.
So the ECI itself said Aadhaar isn't the tool for checking voting rights eligibility.
Pretty much. That was a key moment. And the Supreme Court bench Justices Suri Kant and J.B. Pardiwala, they strongly reinforced that point.
How so?
They stated very clearly, Aadhaar might prove residence, where you live, but it's not definitive proof of citizenship. And they even quoted the Aadhaar Act itself, Section 9. Aadhaar is not proof of citizenship or domicile. Crystal clear.
Okay, so we have this crucial distinction. Identity, residence, and citizenship. Can you break that down simply for us? They sound similar, but are legally very different.
Let's try. Identity. Aadhaar tells you who someone is, gives them a unique ID. Residence. Aadhaar often shows where someone lives, their address. But citizenship, that's a separate legal status.
Granted by different laws.
Right. The Citizenship Act, the Constitution. And it's citizenship, not just identity or where you live, that gives you political rights, like voting. The court basically reminded the ECI it still has to verify citizenship properly, using the right legal routes, not just rely on Aadhaar. Understanding this difference is, well, it's fundamental.
And this clarification, it surely has implications beyond Bihar, right? Like for the National Register of Citizens, the NRC debate.
Absolutely. It clearly separates Aadhaar from proof of citizenship, which matters hugely for debates like the NRC. And the Supreme Court comment about the trust deficit. That's serious.
Why so serious?
Because the ECI is meant to be the neutral umpire, ensuring fair elections. When parties, especially opposition ones, keep taking the ECI to the Supreme Court over its processes, it suggests they don't fully trust its impartiality or competence. The Supreme Court then ends up acting not just as a legal judge, but almost like a mediator, trying to restore some faith between these key democratic players.
So for you listening, what's the big takeaway here?
Two things, really. First, that vital legal line between residence and citizenship, crucial for democracy. Second, it's a snapshot of institutional trust in India right now. Understanding that difference helps you participate more informedly and understand future debates about who gets to vote, about citizenship laws, about national registers. It's about balancing efficiency, rights, and trust in the system.
Absolutely crucial. Okay, let's shift gears now. From domestic governance to the global stage. The upcoming U.S.-Russia summit in Alaska, featuring Trump and Putin. It's being called a very important turning point for India's foreign policy. Why?
It really could be. It comes at a time when, frankly, India is feeling the heat from the U.S. Washington's been pushing hard for India to scale back its long-standing strategic ties with Russia.
Especially after the Ukraine war.
Exactly. The pressure ramped up significantly then. The U.S. wants to isolate Moscow, and it wants countries like India to, well, fall in line, decouple from Russia, align more with U.S. objectives.
And this isn't just talk. There have been real economic threats, right? Those tariffs.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Very real. On August 6th, the U.S. explicitly threatened an additional 25% tariff on Indian exports, which could mean a cumulative tariff of 50%. That's huge.
50%? That sounds potentially devastating.
It would be, given how much India exports to the U.S. And this threat is tied directly to two things Washington dislikes. India buying discounted Russian oil, which the U.S. sees as funding Russia's war.
Right.
And India buying the S-400 air defense system from Russia. The U.S. wants India to stop both. It sees them undermining sanctions and its own strategic goals.
So India is caught in a really tough spot. A trilemma, you could call it. Can you unpack that bind?
It really is a profound trilemma. It pushes India's strategic autonomy to the limit.
Okay.
First, you've got India's huge economic dependence on the U.S. market. The U.S. is arguably India's biggest trading partner. Exports were around $87 billion in 2024. So a 50% tariff. Catastrophic for jobs, for industry.
Unbreakable, almost.
Second, there's the deep defense reliance on Russia. Historically, maybe over half of India's military gear is Russian. And the S-400 system. India sees it as absolutely vital for national security, especially with threats from China and Pakistan. You can't just discard that overnight.
Creates a huge security gap.
Exactly. And third, there's India's core principle, strategic autonomy. That long-standing policy of not aligning with any single bloc, staying independent.
Which India has guarded fiercely.
And still is. India welcomed the summit, hoping for de-escalation, but it also called the U.S. tariff threat unfair, unjustified, and unreasonable, while also reaffirming its special and privileged strategic partnership with Russia. It's trying to hold all these lines at once.
Walking a very, very fine tightrope. So how is this specific Alaska summit such a determinant factor for India maintaining that autonomy?
Because, frankly, the summit's outcome is the most important variable right now. It will heavily influence which way things go for India.
Okay, how so? Two scenarios.
Pretty much. Scenario 1, positive outcome. U.S.-Russia tensions ease. Maybe sanctions on Russia get relaxed a bit. That takes the pressure off India. The tariff threat might recede. That's great for India's multi-aligned policy. It keeps its strategic space.
The ideal outcome for Delhi.
Absolutely. Scenario 2, negative outcome. The summit increases friction. U.S. pressure on India likely intensifies. Then India faces really hard choices. Economic ties with the U.S. versus security ties with Russia. It gets forced into alignments it wants to avoid. Its strategic autonomy gets compromised.
So for you listening, what does this all boil down to?
This Alaska summit is a truly decisive moment for Indian diplomacy. It's a major test of India's ability to manage these incredibly complex relationships with both Washington and Moscow. It's about India's place in the world, its ability to steer its own course. And it shows how even a major power like India can find its options constrained by what happens between other giants. It makes you think, doesn't it? How does a country protect its economy and security when caught in these geopolitical cross-currents?
A critical question indeed. Okay, from the U.S.-Russia dynamic, let's turn to India's other major relationship, China. There's news that direct passenger flights between India and China might resume next month. That's big news considering they've been suspended for nearly 5 years.
Yeah, since COVID hit, and then, crucially, after the Galwan Valley clashes in 2020 really froze relations.
And the timing is interesting too, maybe coinciding with PM Modi's potential visit to China for the SCO summit.
That speculation is definitely out there. If this flight resumption happens, it has several layers of meaning. First, the practical stuff.
Easier travel.
Much easier. Cheaper, too. Reopens links for businesses, students, tourists. Right now, you have to fly via Hong Kong or Singapore, which adds time and cost. So direct flights are a real benefit there.
Okay, practical benefits. But surely there's a diplomatic angle too.
Oh, absolutely. It would be a clear diplomatic signal. A small sign, perhaps, of easing tensions. It follows other tiny confidence-building steps, like India, resuming tourist visas for Chinese citizens earlier. But flights are much more visible, a tangible move.
A gesture.
Yeah.
And connecting this back to the U.S. pressure we just discussed, could this also be India playing its cards strategically? A balancing act?
That's a very sharp point. It certainly could be read that way. A strategic counterweight, perhaps?
How so?
Well, by resuming direct flights, even if it's limited, India might be subtly signaling to Washington and others that it's not putting all its eggs in one basket, that it maintains the ability and willingness to engage with other major powers, even ones it has serious problems with. It reinforces that idea of strategic autonomy, of multi-alignment.
But, and there's always a but with India-China relations, this doesn't fix the fundamental problems, does it?
That is the crucial caveat, the biggest warning, really. Resuming flights is nice for travelers, maybe a small diplomatic plus, but it does absolutely nothing to solve the core issue, the unsolved border dispute. That remains the massive obstacle to any real normalization.
So this is tactical, not strategic resolution.
Exactly. Think of it as a pragmatic, tactical step, likely driven by some economic sense, maybe a desire for limited diplomatic contact. But it's not a sign of a major breakthrough or that the deep strategic mistrust is gone. It shows how diplomacy works. Sometimes small gestures can manage tensions, but they rarely erase fundamental conflicts.
So the key takeaway for listeners on this potential flight resumption?
It's a significant move, yes, with benefits for travel and trade, but its real importance might be geopolitical timing. It could be a strategic signal from India amidst global pressures. It shows you how countries navigate these complex, sometimes contradictory relationships, and how even small steps can have bigger strategic implications for your country's global position.
Okay, let's pivot now. From geopolitics back to domestic progress and challenges. And this next one is huge for India's tech future, semiconductors. The Union Cabinet just approved 4 new semiconductor projects, total investment, nearly 4,600 crore rupees.
Yeah, 4,594 crore to be exact.
This is under the India Semiconductor Mission, right? Bringing the total approved facilities to 10 now?
10 facilities, yes, with a massive cumulative investment commitment of 1.6 lakh crore spread across 6 states. It's a really significant acceleration.
Historic, you could say. Let's break down these 4 new projects. They seem quite strategic.
They are. Very deliberately chosen. First, there's Sasam Private Limited in Bhubaneswar, Odisha. What's special here is it's India's first commercial silicon carbide fab. SiC, silicon carbide.
Why is 6 important?
It's a next-gen material. Better than silicon for high-power stuff. Think electric vehicles, advanced defense tech, high-speed rail, power electronics. By targeting SiC, India's aiming for a niche where it can maybe get ahead, not just play catch-up in traditional silicon. It's future-focused.
Smart. Aiming for leadership. And also in Bhubaneswar, there's HIPSL. What are they doing?
HIPSL is setting up what they're calling the world's first commercial-scale 3D glass substrate packaging unit. This is really cutting-edge stuff.
Packaging. Why is that so important?
Because advanced packaging, especially 3D packaging, is becoming just as critical as making the chip itself for overall performance, especially for high-performance computing, AI, defense. You hear about chiplet design?
Vaguely, like Lego bricks for chips.
Kind of. Integrating multiple specialized chips into one package. Advanced packaging makes that possible, boosting power and efficiency. HIPSL is aiming right at that critical enabling technology.
Very forward-looking. Okay, the third one, Advanced System and Package, ASIPAT.
ASIP is coming up in Andhra Pradesh. Their focus is on ATMP assembly, testing, marking, and packaging.
So the finishing stages.
Exactly. You make the raw chip, the wafer. But ATMP turns it into a usable component you can put into a phone, a car, a set-top box. It's vital for the downstream ecosystem. You need this to actually use the chips being made elsewhere.
Got it. Completes the chain. And the fourth, CDIL in Mohali, Punjab.
CDIL's project is a brownfield expansion. They're upgrading an existing facility, They'll boost capacity for high-power discrete semiconductors, things like MOSFETs, IGBTs,
What are those used in?
crucial components for automotive systems, power conversion, industrial machines, renewable energy tech. Increasing domestic production here directly boosts Atmanirbharta self-reliance in key industries.
What strikes me is that India isn't just trying to build generic chip factories. There seems to be a real strategic imperative driving these choices.
That's exactly what's fascinating. The recent global chip shortages, right? They hit everyone. Plus geopolitical tensions, especially around Taiwan, the main chip hub. It made crystal clear that domestic semiconductor capability isn't just nice to have, it's a strategic imperative.
For security and the economy.
Both. And India's approach seems multi-pronged. First, target next-gen tech like SiCi. Second, capture value in advanced packaging, which is key to performance now. Third, strengthen the whole ecosystem, not just the big fabs, but also ATMP and component manufacturing. It's about building the entire value chain domestically. The race for tech self-reliance, especially in chips, it's really become the new frontier for national security and economic strength.
So for you listening, what's the bottom line on these approvals?
This is a historic step towards tech self-reliance. It shows ambition for a complete domestic ecosystem, and this directly impacts your future. The tech in your gadgets, the cars you drive, and ultimately the nation's strategic security and economic resilience. It's about securing supply chains and driving innovation here.
From high-tech semiconductors, let's turn to something equally vital but more foundational: inclusive growth. Specifically, the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin, or PMAYG, the Rural Housing Scheme. There's been significant progress reported.
Yes, the numbers are pretty impressive. 4.12 crore houses allocated overall. That's 41.2 million.
Huge number.
And against a target of 3.79 crore sanctioned, about 2.69 crore were actually completed by February 2025. Now, the government set a new goal: another 2 crore houses by 2029.
What's the core objective? Who gets these houses?
The aim is simple but profound. Provide pucca houses permanent, all-weather homes with basic amenities. For rural families who are homeless or living in dilapidated or kacha, non-permanent houses, it's about basic dignity and security.
And there's financial help.
Yes. 1.2 lakh for families in plain areas, a bit more. 1.3 lakh for those in hilly or difficult regions. Plus, they can get an optional bank loan of up to 70,000 now.
Now, what's really interesting is how this program connects with other schemes. This convergence model, can you explain that? It's not just about four walls and a roof.
That's a key point. How does PMAYG actually link up? That convergence is one of its defining strengths. It's designed so each house gets integrated with other essential welfare programs.
Like what?
For instance, beneficiaries automatically get help to build a toilet under the Swachh Bharat mission. They get access to LPG connections for clean cooking fuel via the Ujjwala Yojana. And they can get 95 days of paid work under MGNREGA, specifically for building their own house.
So it provides income too.
Exactly. It means you're not just getting a house, you're getting a package. Sanitation, clean fuel, employment support, it's holistic.
Yeah.
Aims to significantly lift the overall quality of life.
That comprehensive approach sounds powerful. What about ensuring it reaches the right people and empowering women? And transparency.
Gender empowerment is built in. It's mandatory for the house ownership to be solely in the woman's name, or jointly with her husband. That's huge for women's property rights and standing in rural society.
That is significant.
For selection, it uses the Socioeconomic and Caste Census, SECC 2011 data. That helps target the most deprived families based on objective criteria. And for transparency, there's the YSOF portal tracking everything online. Geotagged photos verify construction progress. Money goes directly to beneficiaries' bank accounts via direct benefit transfer, DBT.
Cutting out intermediaries.
Right. Minimizes leakage, corruption, delays. Gets the funds where they're meant to go.
You mentioned this idea of a saturation model of welfare delivery earlier. PMAG seems like a prime example. What does that mean?
It's a really fascinating philosophical shift. Traditionally, welfare schemes often worked in silos, right? Different departments, separate benefits, could be fragmented. The saturation model tries to break that. The goal isn't just one benefit, like a house. It's to ensure every qualifying family gets a complete package of basic necessities for a dignified life.
Okay.
The house is the centerpiece, but around it you saturate the household with other essentials. Sanitation, fuel, water, jobs. Make sure they get the full set. The idea is a more sustainable, transformative impact on rural quality of life. Not just temporary help, but lasting change. It's a quiet revolution in how welfare is delivered.
So for you listening, what are the key takeaways on PAYG?
It's much more than housing. It's a model for comprehensive rural transformation. It directly empowers women. It champions inclusive growth through this integrated approach. Understanding it helps you grasp how India is trying to lift its most vulnerable citizens by tackling basic needs holistically. It's about providing a foundation of dignity.
Okay, while PMAYG shows progress, India is also facing severe economic shocks. Those cumulative 50% U.S. tariffs are absolutely crippling the diamond cutting and polishing industry. It's causing a severe economic crisis, especially in Gujarat's Saurashtra region, places like Surat, Bhavnagar, Amreli.
The human cost is just devastating. Estimates suggest around 1 lakh workers. That's 100,000 people have lost their jobs since the tariffs kicked in around April.
100,000 jobs, wow.
And it hits the smaller units hardest. The ones in towns like Bhavnagar, Amreli, they just don't have the cushion the bigger players in Swart might have. These are skilled artisans, generations in the trade, suddenly jobless.
And these tariffs directly impact exports and production, obviously.
Absolutely. The U.S. is the dominant market for Indian polished diamonds. With the tariffs, U.S. buyers canceled orders, postponed new ones, production lines just stopped.
Ooh.
And this raises another worrying question. Could this spill over to the lab-grown diamond sector, the LGDs?
The emerging market.
Exactly. It's also heavily reliant on the U.S. market. If demand there drops or tariffs hit LGDs too, it could stifle that growth area as well. Double whammy potential.
So what's the industry asking the government for? What kind of help do they need?
They're urgently pleading for intervention. They want accelerated talks for a bilateral trade deal with the U.S. to roll back these specific tariffs. They need increased export incentives to stay competitive, interest subsidies on loans to prevent bankruptcies, and faster GST refunds to help with cash flow, which is choking many smaller businesses right now.
Well, connecting this back to our earlier geopolitical chat, these tariffs don't sound like typical trade disputes over unfair practices. They feel like a tool.
They absolutely are being used as a tool. It's vital to understand this isn't about the diamond industry itself doing anything wrong. These tariffs are explicitly a geopolitical tool.
Used by Washington.
Yes, used by Washington to pressure India on its foreign policy, especially regarding Russia, the oil, the S-400s we discussed. So you have direct, brutal link. A geopolitical decision made far away causes massive job losses among artisans in Gujarat.
Those 1 lakh workers are.
They're essentially collateral damage in a bigger game. It starkly shows the vulnerability of globalization. India polishes, what, 9 out of 10 diamonds globally? A huge industry, yet it's incredibly vulnerable to these external, politically driven shocks. It poses that critical challenge again. How do you protect your industries when they become geopolitical pawns? It screens for economic resilience, diversifying markets, boosting domestic demand, finding ways to shield key sectors.
So the takeaway for you listening on this crisis?
The Saurashtra diamond crisis is a painful, real-world example of how global geopolitical conflicts hit home. Hard. It shows you the tangible, devastating impact international politics can have on everyday lives and jobs right here. A tough lesson in interconnectedness and vulnerability.
Okay, let's shift focus one last time to environmental governance. There's a significant debate happening in Delhi NCR about the ban on older vehicles. The Supreme Court has actually agreed to re-examine its landmark 2018 order.
That's the one banning 10-year-old diesel and 15-year-old petrol vehicles.
Right. And importantly, while they review it, there's interim relief. No penalties for owners for now.
Which is significant breathing room for many people. What's really at the core here is this debate. Age versus fitness. Should a vehicle be banned based on how old it is or based on how much pollution it actually emits?
And the Delhi government and others are arguing the age ban is blunt and outdated.
That's their main line. They say, look, with modern BS6 emission standards, age just isn't a reliable proxy for pollution anymore.
Because technology's improved so much.
Exactly. A well-maintained older car might actually pollute less than a poorly maintained newer one. So a blanket age ban, they argue, creates undue hardship for responsible owners whose cars might be perfectly fine emission-wise. It penalizes good maintenance.
Makes sense. So why was the age ban brought in back in 2018 then? What was the rationale?
You have to remember the context. It was an emergency judicial measure. Delhi NCR was facing a horrific air pollution crisis.
Right, the pollution spikes.
And back then, before BS6 was widespread and without robust real-time emission testing everywhere, age was seen as a simple, easily implementable proxy. A quick, if crude way to get potentially high-polluting vehicles off the road fast to tackle a public health emergency.
A blunt tool for a crisis situation. So this review now, it maybe suggests a shift, a maturing of policy.
It does raise that important question. Does this signal potential maturity in environmental policy? A move away from those blunt instruments, easy to apply maybe, but often unfair or inefficient towards more sophisticated evidence-based regulations.
Like fitness testing.
Ideally, yes. The future could be a robust, technology-driven vehicle fitness testing regime. Measure actual emissions. That would be scientifically sounder, environmentally more targeted, and socially fair. Good older cars stay, polluting cars go, regardless of age.
The big challenge, though, is implementing that kind of testing system reliably without corruption across the board.
That's the multi-billion-dollar question, absolutely. Designing and running a trustworthy system is hard.
So what does this potential shift mean for you, the listener?
This review could mark a paradigm shift, moving towards smarter, more nuanced environmental rules. It directly affects your ability to use your vehicle, the air you breathe. It highlights that constant balancing act, protecting the environment versus individual rights and economic realities.
A complex balance indeed. Okay, now for a quick roundup. Some global bites, cultural highlights you might have missed but are worth knowing. Adds color to the bigger picture.
Definitely. These smaller threads weave into the larger tapestry, enriching your understanding of what's happening all around.
First, a cultural spotlight from Manipur, Patriots' Day.
Yes. Celebrated August 13th, it's a state holiday there. It honors the Anglo-Manipur War of 1891, specifically remembers heroes like Bir Tikendrajit and General Thangal, who were hanged by the British on that day in Imphal. Banks are closed in Manipur in remembrance.
A solemn commemoration. Next, some cultural diplomacy. The BIMSTEC Traditional Music Festival.
First edition, happening in Delhi, hosted by the ICCR. It brings together artists from all 7 BIMSTEC countries: Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Myanmar, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Thailand. A great way to showcase the region's diverse traditional music and build cultural bridges.
Sounds wonderful. And it's festival time in Kerala. Onam's kicking off.
It is. The 10-day Onam festival officially starts with Athatmaya. That's a huge cultural procession near Kochi, with floats, traditional arts like Kathakali, Mohiniyattam, the Pulikali tiger dance, elephants. Visually spectacular.
And the boat races.
Yes. The Nehru Trophy boat race, Kerala's most famous snake boat race, the Chundanvalam. Happens on Punamata Lake near Alappuzha. Thousands come to watch. It's incredibly exciting. A real spectacle of teamwork and competition.
Fantastic. Okay, any other quick updates from around the world or closer to home?
Let's see. The Kedarnath Yatra pilgrimage was suspended temporarily due to bad weather. The U.S. and China extended their trade truce for another 90 days. Nepal's thinking about waiving climbing fees for 97 unclimbed peaks to boost tourism.
Interesting idea.
There was a 6.5 magnitude earthquake in West Papua, Indonesia. Concerns about cybersecurity with suspected Russian hackers linked to a U.S. federal court data breach. Security's been tightened in J&K for Independence Day, and Delhi had traffic restrictions for the parade rehearsal.
And sports.
Shubman Gill was named ICC Player of the Month for July. And in chess, India's Divya Deshmukh reached the Women's Speed Chess Championship quarterfinals, beating China's Lei Tingji. Quite a performance.
Wow, what a whirlwind. An incredibly detailed journey through today's key issues. Let's try and quickly recap the main themes we hit. We started with that delicate balance, judicial independence versus accountability. That high bar for removing judges really highlights the tension.
Then the crucial legal line between Aadhaar, residence, and citizenship for voting rights. What that says about institutional trust.
Then India's complex geopolitical tightrope walk, the U.S.-Russia pressure, the cautious steps with China as maybe a strategic counterweight?
Right. And the big push for tech self-reliance in semiconductors, building that whole ecosystem, not just factories. Plus, the saturation model in welfare, like PAG, aiming for holistic transformation.
And we saw the harsh reality of geopolitics hitting home. The diamond industry crisis in Saurashtra, where global politics caused local job losses, real collateral damage.
Painfully clear. And finally, that shift in environmental thinking, moving from blunt age-based vehicle bans towards potentially smarter fitness-based rules. Our goal really was to give you that deeper, connected understanding, beyond the headlines.
Exactly. You should now have a much clearer, more holistic view of these complex forces shaping India and its world.
And all this interconnectedness, local and global, it really leaves you with a question to think about, doesn't it? How will India keep navigating these intense pressures to align with global powers while still trying to hold on to its strategic autonomy, its independent path? Or maybe on a different level, How does your own engagement with information, your willingness to dig deeper like this, help build a more resilient, informed society that can understand and navigate these complex times?
That's a really powerful thought to end on. We definitely encourage you to maybe listen again, jot down what struck you, and really mull over the implications. Share your thoughts too. Comments, social media, we'd love to hear from you.
Becoming well-informed is a journey, right? And staying engaged is more vital than ever. Until next time, keep digging deep.